before I left, I was able to max out my 457 plan. So that was a goal that I had. So I wanted some things done, kind of to set up. But for 2025, probably I won't invest for the first time. So it's a little, different from kind of what I've done, but I'm okay with it, and I'm actually spending some of my savings, and, I have things in different buckets, to help kind of with this entrepreneurial journey, because I do know it takes a little bit of time to build things up.
Investing for retirement takes time, patience, and consistency. Eventually, you're going to reach a point where you don't need to contribute any more money to hit your retirement goals. And that's what we call Coast Fire. On our Coast Fire segment today, we're going to interview Stacy Blackshear from Virginia. Stacy and her husband Hamilton hit this Coast Fire milestone in their late 30s. Today, we're going to learn how they accomplished this family financial goal and how this affects their journey going forward. Welcome to the show, Stacy.
Hi, great to be here.
Thanks for being here, and thank you for sharing your transparent story so others can win like you have with money. So let's start with our Coast Fire 5. These are 5 quick questions that I have for you about your Coast Fire journey. Let's start with number 1. How much have you invested for retirement?
So in preparation for this, I actually had to look at everything. So currently I'm at $100,000.
That is awesome. $560,000. That is great. Number 2, how old are you today then? And your spouse, Stacy?
So I am 40 and my husband is 45.
Awesome. Very cool. And then number 3, based on your Coast Fire calculations, how much will you have in retirement if you don't contribute anything else?
Yes. So if I don't contribute anything and I pull it out at 60, it would be $1.7 million.
That is awesome. The power of compound interest and time and patience and consistency. Very cool. And then number 4, how much income could this provide you in retirement?
So that would be about $67,000.
$67,000. Awesome. And then how much income do you need to live comfortably today? Our last question.
Yeah, so that kind of varies, but I would say my portion's about 50,000, so that would be substantially more than what I need.
Excellent. Very cool. And then does your husband have different investments as well, or is this all combined with your husband's as well?
Yeah, actually, this is just mine.
Oh, wow. That's pretty impressive, Stacy. I guess I should have asked you that to begin with. That's very cool. So this well covers your portion of life, then, is what we're saying.
Yes, for sure.
That is extremely relieving. Very cool. That's such a monumentous thing on your investing journey to just say, I'm good. I could contribute more and have a more robust future, but I'm good. So let's talk about the situation. And I guess let's talk about how you got started. When you started on your investing journey, what was your motivation?
So I started kind of right out of school, just a little bit at a time. I wasn't making very much. I was a teacher. So, but just a little bit each year into my IRAs and my 403Bs. But I really didn't start getting kind of serious about it until about 2016 is when I first started kind of tracking like my net worth and doing more with Vanguard.
Got it. What was happening in 2016 where you said, I need to pay attention to this a little bit more?
Yeah, so I actually got divorced. So that was a kind of a big part where I had to kind of look and see kind of where I was and wanted to feel more confident and just be clear. And that's part of the reason why my husband and I, we keep our finances separate because it is the second marriage for both of us. So that's kind of a decision that we made, but we contribute to the household expenses and that works for us.
I think that's great. That makes a lot of sense based on your background. Did you guys do some sort of prenup situation as you went into your second marriage, or were you guys both starting from an area of, hey, let's build this up together?
Yeah, so we actually both were starting from pretty solid area. My husband is retired from the military, so he has his military pension, but then he's still working. So it just kind of made sense for us to kind of combine expenses, but also kind of keep our own investments because it had been working for us. And it's kind of a different kind of viewpoint. Like he doesn't have a lot of investments in the stock market because he does have his retirement. So he doesn't really need to, which is great. It's great, but that wasn't my situation.
Were there some lessons you learned financially from your divorce that helped you to go into your second marriage with a little bit more financial strength?
Yeah, well, I think part of it, and part of the reason why I was so kind of motivated and get kind of focused, is because we just don't quite know, like, the
Yeah.
bumps that are going to happen, and what different things are going to cost, and with inflation and just things that you don't expect. So being able to really invest and put that money aside for things, was really important. And one of the things, even looking back now, like, I was able to save at a really high rate when it was
Hmm.
just me as a single person. As now a mom with daycare and all these other expenses, I don't have that high level of savings that I was able to do when I was single. But the good thing is I only had to do that for a few years, the really high level of savings to get me to this really great spot.
That's
Because back
great.
in like 2015, I looked at it, I only had 20,000 saved in 2015. So to go from that to over 500,000, like, that's unless, about 10 years.
That's incredible. Now, do you feel, um, I guess, proud or happy that you have gotten yourself to this financial position, knowing now you've got some little ones at home that need a little bit more of your time and probably your money as well?
Yeah, so that kind of goes into kind of the whole Coast Fi. And when I had my first child, we actually had to go through some infertility treatment. So it kind of was a process, and it wasn't covered by insurance. And so there was a large kind of output too with funds there. But I was working and coming home, and I was tired, and I couldn't play with him, and I couldn't do some of the things that I wanted to. So part of being Coast Fi kind of let me kind of step away from that and be more present with my kids, which I wouldn't have been able to do if I wasn't in this situation.
I love that. It's given you options and some more time freedom to make the choices that are best for you and your family. Well, let's talk a little bit about the Coast Fire process. You talked about over $500,000 in there. What is made up of that $500,000? Just to educate people on what that means. Is this solely your 401k? Talk about what's in there.
Yeah. So I was in education. So I had the option to be part of something called a 457 plan. And one of the great things about a 457 plan is you can actually access it before retirement age if you need to without penalties. So I have sorry, I'm looking down, about 24% of my um, investable income is in that 457 plan. So I'm not planning to touch it, but if I need to, I certainly can without penalties. So that's great. And then I have about 43% in my traditional IRA, about 21% in my Roth IRA. And then I do have kind of a pension that's very small. So the way I'm calculating that, I'm just calculating what I've contributed to the pension for my kind of in my numbers. So that would be about 8%. And then I have a taxable brokerage account that's about 4%.
That's great. That's great. And then your investment strategy in general, are these passive investments, active investments? How do you see things?
No, I'm just index funds, put it in, let it go. The last, few weeks have been a little tricky
Oh yeah, for all of
with the
us.
market, and it's kind of hard to kind of look and see, your numbers go down. But I also know that I'm doing this for the long term, and it'll come back up. And really, it's about where I am now is about what I was in May of last year. So although it's still hard to see that go down. I'm still on track. I'm still doing okay. And I think just having that as a foundation and understanding my numbers too, when other people, might be a little nervous and scared about what's going on, it kind of helps to ground you that you have those options.
That's very good perspective, and I think maybe helpful for some people listening too, because you see those big headlines. They're very fear-stoking headlines of like, this hasn't been as bad as last year. It's like if you really look at the numbers, you see the growth. Yeah, it's not good to see your values go down, but if you're a long-term investor like you are, hopefully you have that patience and understanding that this is a wild roller coaster that we have to kind of stay on, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit more about that income side of things. You said you guys you were divorced in around 2016, and now we're chatting in 2025 here. So over the last 9 years, what did you do for income? You mentioned education, and then help us with just sort of a general range of income so people can understand of what you did to earn your income and then use a big portion of that to invest.
Yeah. So I was a special education administrator for those time periods and in a couple different districts. So it kind of varied between, I'd say, 65,000 to when I left, I was going to be right at 100.
Got it. And you said left, so you're taking a break right now. What's
I
your long term
am.
plan? Are you done? Are you done permanently? Are you staying home with the kids? What
Yeah.
you're up for debate, huh?
Yeah, it's kind of a fun place to be. In August of 2024, knowing that I was pregnant with my second child and just knowing everything that was going on and looking at my numbers, I realized I didn't have to work. At worst, kind of looking at like a little break, and then if need be, I can go back. But the other piece that I started is kind of looking and actually helping other people with their finances in the pace that I want to. So kind of at more of a kind of a part-time when I'm able, still being a present for my family, but still being able to help others. So also beginning that entrepreneur journey as well.
I love that. So a little bit of entrepreneurship, a little bit of savings, a little bit of obviously support from your loving spouse, and then continuing to move forward and deciding when is the right time to go back. If not at all, those options seem to be plentiful for you right now, based on you building up your finances and your invested income here. Now, it sounds like you're choosing based on where you are to maybe slow down the amount that's going in for investments at this period of time, or are you
Yes.
stopping, or are you keeping the pace going? Tell me about that.
Well, this year, well, for 2024, before I left, I was able to max out my 457 plan. So that was a goal that I had. So I wanted some things done, kind of to set up. But for 2025, probably I won't invest for the first time. So it's a little, different from kind of what I've done, but I'm okay with it, and I'm actually spending some of my savings, and, I have things in different buckets, to help kind of, with this entrepreneurial journey. Cause I do know it takes a little bit of time to build things up. So
Absolutely. Yeah, and giving yourself some time freedom with your children as well, which is very important. And I as you shared with me, it can feel a little bit like, oh my God, I've been doing this investing thing and it's working well for me for a while. So it feels weird to either decrease or stop. So I feel you there. I will say, since we've done this as a couple since 2021, maybe, um, we have seen a lot of growth in our accounts, and we're still very well on our way to being coast fire. I'm sorry, hitting our fire number by the time we hit 60. And the more I learn about it, the more I kind of wish I would have pulled back even a little earlier, because I think we're going to have more than enough based on our situation. And it's allowed me to take some pause to kind of study it a little bit more and be like, oh, wow, actually, a lot of these folks that end up doing this and building wealth for a long period of time end up with millions when they die. And it's kind of the last thing I want to do. No offense to my children who might want to receive those millions, but I'd rather be there and spend time with them now and experience life. And so I guess the point is, enjoy today and enjoy tomorrow. And that's why I really do like this Coast Fire concept. Speaking of children, I know you have very young ones right now. How do you think about generational wealth? Is that something that is on your mind? And if so, what are your plans, if there are any?
yeah, so it's not something I've really kind of thought of or sort of have a plan around right now. We did contribute a little bit to their 529 accounts, but it's not, significant right now. Cause, daycare's pretty expensive,
Yeah, that's an
but,
investment right there.
uh, I think it's something that if we teach them, good money habits, that they'll be able to go and, create their own wealth. And there will likely be some that's passed down to them. But I also think, as you said, it's really important right now for us. it's not about just accumulating more. And that was one thing that I did a lot of kind of soul searching and really thought about before leaving, because I could have stayed. I liked my job. I was getting paid well. I was doing it, but I was just so tired and I wasn't showing up as the mom that I wanted to be. And being older parents too, we don't quite have the same energy as if we had kids, in our 20s or even 30s. So just being, we built this for a reason, and this is the reason, and this is kind of the season too. So that's another kind of concept that's really kind of stuck with me, is there's different seasons. And then, so some of the seasons are going to be where you're really have that high savings rate and, maybe not go out all the time. And then others are, we plan trips and we like to travel and we want our kids to experience different cultures, and that's going to cost a little money, and that's okay because we have it, because we've saved it.
I love that. Yeah, your emphasis on seasons is so right. I've really prided myself on being a present dad and having a lot of ability to be there for them for the important things. What I didn't factor in is eventually they become preteens and teens, and they love you, but they don't love you as much as they used to. I take that back. I'm sure she still loves me as much as she used to, but it's just friends are a big part of their lives. If you ever see that Inside Out 2 movie, it's such a
Yeah.
great movie. They visualize Friend Island and Family Island. Family Island's still there, but it's just a little smaller now for when you're 13. So I guess to your point on seasons is like, if this is the season they're going to need you a lot, be there for them. And then as they don't need you as much, flex and enjoy whatever growth period you want in your life at that moment. That's something that I'm continually learning as a father to a teen right now. Now there's somebody listening and they're very inspired by your Coast Fire story. They think it's really cool that you've gotten to that $500,000 mark and above at your situation, and you've been able to kind of decrease work, stop work altogether, and stop investing altogether. What is one piece of advice that you would have for them if they want to get to your situation?
I would say, you do have to invest, but even just pick a small amount to invest in. And the other piece is, read and find your community. I was lucky to find A Simple Path to Wealth really early on. So that was helpful. Cash Flow Quadrant was helpful. And just being around, if you don't have it like in your day-to-day life, there's so many great podcasts. Yours is great. Books are out there. You can really learn a lot so that you don't have to kind of stumble on your own and figure this out, because other people have already figured it out. You just need to follow.
I think that's great. Yeah, educate yourself, find community where there is, and even locally for people who have like-minded interests as you, and sharing that information. Now, I know you are helping people as well. Tell people where they can connect with you and learn more from you.
Yeah, so probably the best place would be my website, which is Rewire Behavior Financial Coaching. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook, but I haven't really been great about keeping up with that. But if anybody's interested, they can just contact me on the website. And then I also have a freebie on there about a financial wheel that can help families kind of just figure out, where do I even start? Like, what area of finance do I even look at? Because I'm not sure. I know I need to be doing stuff, but I don't even know where to start. So that can be helpful as well.
Excellent. Well, we'll have all those resources in the show notes of the podcast, as well as a YouTube channel. Stacy, thank you so much for sharing your huge family win with us. I'm so happy for you in your young motherhood journey.
Yeah, thanks. It's been great.
Want to see how close you are to Coast Fire? Well, check out our free Coast Fire calculator right on our website at marriagekidsandmoney.com. You can access it with the links below. You insert a little bit of information, hit the calculate button, and see how close you are to hitting Coast Fire. Check it out.